Good morning. Welcome to another fresh edition of your newspaper review program inside Nigeria on Leadership Television. My name is Winifred Ubebo. Today is September 2nd, 2025. And of course, we have newspapers for review on our menu this Tuesday. And of course, we have Nigeria's most influential newspaper, Leadership, Vanguard, Daily Sun, The Punch, and of course, The Guardian, all for review on today's segment of the show. Without wasting much time, let's head up to leadership this Tuesday. And of course, the leading story is still on PDP crisis. Reactions as Wike says unresolved crisis could derail PDP convention. If you want to destroy party, bring Obi, FCT minister acts. Go to court if you are not satisfied, body judge tells Wike. Of course, like I said, just mentioned earlier, there seems to be no end in sight to the crisis bedeviling PDP, the main opposition party in Nigeria. Let's just have a snippet of that leading story because it's the same story we have on some of the papers we have, no, in all the papers we have on our review this morning. So let's head up to page 4 of leadership to get some excerpts from that leading story. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, FCT, Nyesom Wike, has cast doubt over the upcoming National Convention of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, saying it can only be held if the lingering internal crises are resolved. The party's convention is scheduled to take place in Ibadan, Oyo State, this November. Wike, speaking during his monthly media chat in Abuja on Monday, clarified that his concern is not with the chosen venue but with the processes leading up to the event. The issue of the National Convention is not the problem. The issue is the problem leading to the convention, and people should understand that, he said. He made his statement in response to media reports suggesting his objections were personal or related to the location. He said the venue is not the subject matter. The subject matter is, have you done what you are supposed to do before holding that convention? So you now go and say, I said Ibadan will not hold the convention. No, that is not correct. We have had conventions in Port Harcourt and Abuja, so the party can decide whether to hold it in Sokoto or Bonu. What we are saying is, before you get to the convention, have you done what you are supposed to do? He asked. Excerpts from the leading story on today's leading cover story. Reactions as Wike says unresolved crisis could derail PDP convention. Like I mentioned earlier, it's also the leading story in most of the papers we have on our lineup. From the cover story, we go back to review other stories gracing the cover of leadership. Of course, federal government hates Finland over Ekpa's conviction. The story broke yesterday, and then it was widely accepted by majority of Nigerians. The story continues on page 34 of leadership. Federal government hates Finland over Ekpa's conviction. Governor Sani accuses El-Rufai of plot to destabilize Kaduna. Of course, this is also in reaction to El-Rufai's statement or weighty of allegations yesterday that the Kaduna state government actually paid 1 billion naira to bandits for peace to remain in Kaduna state. And in reaction, the governor accuses El-Rufai of plot to destabilize Kaduna. Ribadu dismisses El-Rufai's claims, says no ransom payment. That story runs on pages 33 and page 18 of leadership. And on the business boss of leadership, NUPROC signs production sharing contract with NNPCL Total Energies Sapetro. Targets 3 million barrel per day output. We'll take also some excerpts from that business story on the cover of leadership, as we normally do. The Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPROC, has concluded the execution of a production sharing contract PSC with Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, NNPCL, and Total Energies South Atlantic Petroleum Sapetro for 2 offshore petroleum prospecting licenses, 2000 and 2001. They were awarded through the 2024 licensing round. The signing ceremony held in Abuja signals the start of deep water exploration covering over 2,000 square kilometers in the Niger Delta Basin. The project is expected to boost the nation's oil production to achieve its target of 3 million barrels per day output. Excerpts from the business cover story. NUPROC signs production sharing contract with NNPCL, Total Energies, Sapetro. Still on leadership cover, Resident doctors threaten nationwide strike, give federal government 10-day ultimatum. The story is on page 7 of Leadership. Resident doctors threaten nationwide strike, give federal government 10-day ultimatum. 6 die, others injured in Lagos auto crash. 107 criminals arrested, 473 weapons, drugs recovered in Kano. 800 killed as earthquake hits Afghanistan. The story is on page 4 of Leadership, and of course beneath that we also have the pictures of the scenes of the earthquake that killed many people and destroyed villages in eastern Afghanistan yesterday. 107 criminals arrested, 473 weapons, drugs recovered in Kano. Abuja Kaduna rail tracks will be restored in 10 days, coming from the minister. Okpebolo demands quality, speed from road contractors. Troops kill terrorists, rescue women, children in Sokoto. And that concludes the review of front headline stories on Leadership this Tuesday. We move over to the next page we have for review, and that is our stand. Our stand is the editorial, the stand of the paper for the day, and is actually on page 3 of the paper. Today's stand is on charting the path out of Nigeria's education crisis. Charting the path out of Nigeria's education crisis. The recently concluded CADA EduPath International Summit 2025, held from July 9 to 11 in Kaduna, Nigeria, emerged as a beacon of hope amid the nation's deepening education quagmire. Themed strategic visioning for educational transformation, developing a Kaduna State educational model. The summit convened global leaders, policymakers, educators, and innovators to reimagine education as inclusive, future-ready, and impactful. Under Governor Obasani's leadership, he spotlighted Kaduna's ambitious reforms such as reducing tertiary fees by up to 50%, returning over 200,000 out-of-school children to classrooms, and enhancing technical and vocational education and training. Now we move to the conclusion, where the paper normally take a stand. Of course, we move to the conclusion, and the stand today says the CADA EduPath Summit is no mere event, it's a roadmap for redemption. Nigeria's crisis, rooted in poverty, insecurity, and outdated policies, threatens generational progress. By embracing Kaduna's lessons, the nation can pivot toward a new Nigeria, educated, innovative, and equitable. Policymakers must act, redirect budgets, forge partnerships, and prioritize children over politics. As Peter Obi aptly knows, a nation that neglects its young people has no future. Excerpts from today's stand in Leadership, which is on page 3 of the paper, is actually a permanent stand, charting a path out of Nigeria's education crisis. From our stand, we move over to the back page of Leadership, which we normally review every day. And today's back page is on the Tuesday column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. He's writing on South riches without renaissance. South riches without renaissance. Today's Tuesday column with Abdurrauf Aliyu. We take quote from that column. None of these positions matches the region's potential or its revenue profile. Instead, the South region has become a classic example. A quote from the column, Tuesday column, today on the back page of Leadership with Abdurrauf Aliyu. Before we leave the back page, we must not fail to visit Ghana Must Go. The news is on El-Rufai. We formed APC. I know where the dead bodies are buried. And of course, Ghana Must Go asked El-Rufai, you buried them? Is a question for the immediate past governor of Kaduna State, Malam Nasir El-Rufai, to answer. And that concludes the review of Leadership this Tuesday morning. For more, log into the website of Leadership newspaper. From Leadership, we move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is the Vanguard. Vanguard's leading story is still on the issue of PDP crisis. Like I mentioned earlier, most of the papers on our lineup have that story. It's a Jonathan Tokeyamu Odinkalu, keep off my political journey. Jonathan Tokeyamu Odinkalu, keep off my political journey. And of course, Wike, the FCT minister, has already mentioned that Obi should not be allowed to come back to PDP, as his coming would destroy the party. And in response to that, Jonathan is telling Keyamo and Odinkalu, keep off my political journey. And the rider says, keep off my political journey. I don't need your counsel. Jonathan, 100% qualified for race, says Azibaola, ex-president's cousin. He's been deceived, feeding Obi will spare doom for PDP. Wike adds, I won't run for president. Notes El-Rufai's calculation about Tinubu wrong. Nigerians, not APC or PDP, will decide 2027. Coming from former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Still on the cover of Vanguard newspaper, power-hungry politicians seeking to remove Tinubu, coming from presidency. Power-hungry politicians seeking to remove Tinubu presidency. WHO says childhood cancer, 400,000 children diagnosed annually. That is a worsening situation. Childhood cancer, 400,000 children diagnosed annually. WHO, that is the World Health Organization. Rivers local government poll, Obi Labour Party condemn election. Go to court, ROS, IEC tells agri parties. That is the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission. Go to court, tells aggrieved parties. Burst agreement, resident doctors threaten nationwide strike. And we move to sports on the cover of Vanguard. Nigerians in South Africa mobilize for Super Eagles against Bafana. And that takes us to the stories about the masthead of Vanguard. NUPRC, Total Energies, Sapetro seal a PSC deal on 2 offshore oil blocks. And that's the story. We also have it on the business boards of leadership. Terrorism, federal government CDS orders hail Ekpa's conviction in Finland. We will take further action against Ekpa, AGF. Our courts to expedite hearing of terrorism cases, NBA. Empowerment of bandits, federal government tackles El-Rufai, says claim baseless. And that concludes review of front headline stories on Vanguard this Tuesday. For more, log in to the website of Vanguard newspaper. We move to the next paper we have on our lineup, and this is the leading story is talking about Ekpa CCAJ team in faraway Finland. And the Punch says terrorism trial, federal government may seek Ekpa's repatriation after Finland CCAJ team. Government will take further action after judgment review, AGF. Ruling warning to extremist information minister. Kickers to the leading story on today's Punch newspaper. Terrorism trial. Federal government may seek Ekpa's repatriation after Finland CCAJ 10. The story continues on page 2 of the Punch. Strike threats. Resident doctors give federal government 10-day ultimatum. 60-year-old man arrested for raping Lagos lady. Oyetola blames wooden boats as accidents claim 92 lives. And we move to the masthead. Beside it, $600 million monthly diaspora remittances, proof of reforms federal government. And atop the masthead, Nigerian embassy is hit by unpaid rent, salary arrears. 2027, PDP obedience tackle Wike over Jonathan Obi. Dangote fuel export surge amid foreign refineries shut down. Dangote fuel export surge amid foreign refineries shut down. That concludes review of front headline stories of the Punch newspaper. For more, log in to the website of the Punch newspaper. We move ahead to the next paper we have on our lineup, and that is Nigerian Tribune. Nigerian Tribune says Obi will destroy PDP if he returns to party, coming from Nyesom Wike. Says politicians pushing Jonathan to contest in 2027 betrayed him in 2015. Tinubu will win next election. The story is on page 4 of Nigerian Tribune. Battle for NWC's loss intensifies in Southwest PDP. Position of National Secretary, National Auditor, Zonal Chairman at stake. Don't drag security institutions into partisan politics. Federal government wants El-Rufai. As federal government comments, Finland has court sent Simon Ekpa to 6 years in jail. Lastly, we move to the stories about the masthead of Nigerian Tribune. Okpebolo intensifies oversight on road projects, demands quality, speed from contractors. 44th Olubadan's coronation process begins September 22. And that also concludes review of front headline stories on Nigerian Tribune this Tuesday. We move to the next paper, and incidentally, the last paper on our lineup this Tuesday, and that is The Guardian. The Guardian's leading story says local carriers struggle as foreign airlines rake in $1.7 billion from Nigerian markets. Local carriers struggle as foreign airlines rake in $1.7 billion from Nigerian market. Of course, The Guardian has illustration beneath the leading story. It says British Airways, that is 2025 weekly foreign airlines flight frequencies report. Illustration beside the leading story. British Airways has 14 weekly flights frequency. Virgin Atlantic 7, KLM 21, Air France 11, Lufthansa 13, Ethiopian Airlines 27, Emirates Airlines 14, Qatar Airways 7, Turkish Airlines 13, Egypt Air 4, Delta Airlines 7, Kenya Airways 7, Africa World Airlines 14, ASKI Airlines 12, Rwanda Air 10, South African Airways 7, Saudi Airlines 5. This data, of course, emanates from IATA, OAG Aviation, and Eurocontrol. And the illustration says that only 3 Nigerian airlines are on either regional or international routes. The airlines are Air Peace, Ibom Air, and Overland Airways. They continue to struggle, commanding 10% market share. The Nigerian market requires an estimated 54,997 seats weekly. These are illustrations beside the leading story on today's Guardian newspaper. Local carriers struggle as foreign airlines rake in $1.7 billion from Nigerian market. The story continues on page 6 of the Guardian. Beneath the leading story, Finnish court jails Ekpa 6 years for terrorism fraud. How integrity character stopped Wike from eyeing 2027 presidential bid is the news page 8 of The Guardian. How integrity character stopped Wike from eyeing 2027 presidential bid. APC state government El-Rufai trade wars over insecurity in Kaduna. Bago dissolves Niger cabinet as Elia reconstitutes in Benue. Nigeria to reallocate dormant oil blocks, signs new production sharing contracts. Stories that continues on page 15 of The Guardian, and that takes us to the stories just beneath the masthead of The Guardian. Federal government sets up committee to address foreign missions debt. CSO laments state's defiance of Supreme Court ruling on local government allocations. CSO, that is Civil Society Organization, laments state's defiance of Supreme Court ruling on local government allocations. Lastly, on the cover of The Guardian, federal government urges traditional medicine practitioners to standardize products. The story is on page 3 of The Guardian newspaper. And with that, we conclude review of front headline stories on The Guardian this Tuesday, September 2, 2025. For more, log into the website of The Guardian, www.guardian.ng. Well, viewers, this is on this note we conclude today's Inside Nigeria, brought to you on Leadership Television. Unfortunately, our guest is unavoidably absent today. Hopefully next week we hope to receive him on the program. Meanwhile, don't forget to log into this station for news on the hour. My name is Winifred Ubebo. Thanks for joining us.
Be part of our brand. Leadership for God and